I had always believed that if I worked hard enough, I could build something lasting, something that wouldn't just pay the bills but would stand as proof of what persistence could achieve. For years, I had saved every penny I could, working odd jobs, taking double shifts, skipping vacations, and living far below my means. All of it was for one dream: owning a hotel. The idea of running a hotel wasn't about luxury or wealth for me. It was about creating a place where people felt safe, welcomed, and taken care of. Growing up, my parents didn't have much, and vacations were out of the question. I remembered how it felt to stay in small, cheap motels on the rare occasions we traveled. How those places never felt warm or inviting, just four walls and a bed. I told myself that one day, I would change that experience for others. It took nearly 15 years, but eventually, I did it. My hotel wasn't grand or fancy, but it was mine. It sat on the edge of a small but growing town, with enough rooms to attract tourists and traveling workers, but not so many that I felt overwhelmed. Every brick, every polished tile in the lobby, every flower pot outside the entrance. I had chosen it all. The day we opened, I stood in the lobby in my only suit, greeting the very first guests with a nervous but proud smile. It felt surreal watching families check in, couples walking hand in hand toward their rooms, and business travelers nodding to me in gratitude. I wasn't just running a hotel. I was living my dream. The first year was difficult, as most first years in business are. Bookings were slow at times, and I had to juggle paying staff, keeping up with maintenance, and trying to spread word about my place. But slowly it grew. Guests left positive reviews, recommending us to friends, and the weekends started to fill. I had built something with my own two hands, and I couldn't have been prouder. But with that pride came a new kind of hunger. The hunger to grow bigger, to make the hotel more than just a local stopover. I began to dream of renovations, expansions, maybe even a second location someday. That was when they entered my life. It started innocently enough. Two well-dressed individuals booked a stay at my hotel. They claimed to be business consultants, specializing in hospitality and tourism. They complimented me on the cleanliness, the charm, and the way my staff seemed genuinely happy to work there. I remember their words clearly. This place has potential beyond your imagination. With the right investment, you could turn this into something much larger. At first, I laughed it off. I told them I was just grateful to have steady guests and keep the lights on. But they kept pressing, dropping little bits of information that made my imagination race. They spoke of government-backed programs to support tourism businesses, international investors eager to fund local entrepreneurs, and partnerships that could transform my small-town hotel into a recognized brand. I didn't want to admit it, but the thought hooked me. I had never seen myself as a big-shot businessman, but the idea of expanding, of finally being more than just a local name, stirred something inside me. They stayed for 2 nights, during which we had several long conversations in the lounge. They showed me glossy presentations on their laptops, documents stamped with official-looking seals, and testimonials from other business owners who, they said, had achieved success through their guidance. By the time they checked out, they had planted a seed in my mind. A seed of ambition. A seed of trust. I told myself I wasn't rushing into anything, that I was simply keeping an open mind. But deep down, I was already hooked. I wanted to believe in them, in their promises, in the idea that my little hotel could become something legendary. Looking back now, I realized that was the first mistake. Believing that strangers who appeared successful must know better than me. I let my pride, my hunger, and my desire for growth blind me to the risks. But at the time, it felt like fate. As if my years of sacrifice were finally about to pay off. As if the universe was rewarding me for holding on to my dream. What I didn't realize was that this was only the beginning. This was how the scammers first entered my life. And I was about to open the door wider than I ever should have. After they left, I couldn't stop thinking about them. Their polished words echoed in my mind at night, replaying over and over. This place has potential beyond your imagination. You could be sitting on a gold mine if you're willing to think bigger. At first, I tried to dismiss it. Running a hotel was already more work than most people could imagine. There were leaks to fix, laundry machines that broke down, staff schedules to balance, and never-ending bills. Growth seemed like a distant dream. But the seed had been planted, and no matter how much I tried to focus on reality, I found myself daydreaming about expansions. New wings, spas, maybe even franchise deals. A week later, they called me. Their voices were warm, familiar, almost friendly now. They told me they had looked into my hotel further and were impressed by my reviews and occupancy rate. They said I had something rare, a genuine foundation for success, and that they wanted to help me unlock the next level. We met again at my hotel, this time in the conference room. They brought binders full of documents, charts showing projected profits, and glossy photos of luxury hotels they claimed had started just like mine. They pointed to numbers on the pages, drawing circles around profit margins that looked impossible but intoxicating. Think of it this way, one of them said, leaning forward with a reassuring smile. You've already done the hard part. You built something from nothing. All you need now is backing. We'll connect you with investors. All we ask is a small partnership fee upfront to show you're committed. Once that's in place, the rest is easy. The word fee should have been a red flag, but by then, I was hooked. I had been running the hotel on thin margins for years. The thought of finally being able to renovate, advertise, and elevate my business made me blind to caution. They even introduced me to someone they called a government liaison, a man in a suit with a badge who claimed he worked in tourism development. He spoke with authority, using bureaucratic terms I didn't fully understand, assuring me that funding programs existed and that I had a perfect candidate property. Everything seemed so official. They had ID cards, business email addresses, and contracts printed on thick paper with letterheads. They even showed me a website for their firm, filled with glowing testimonials and success stories. It all looked real. When they asked me for an initial fee, $25,000, I hesitated. That was nearly everything I had saved from the first 2 years of running the hotel. I told them I didn't have it, but they were smooth. They said it wasn't unusual, that many business owners hesitated at first, but the ones who took the leap were the ones who saw their dreams realized. They even offered to help me secure a loan if I didn't have enough liquid cash. One of them leaned closer and said, "Look, we don't want to see you miss out. This opportunity doesn't come around often. If you wait too long, those investors will move on to another property. You don't want to be the one who let your dreams slip away, do you?" That was the push I didn't realize I was waiting for. Pride, fear, and ambition wrapped together until I convinced myself that this was the only path forward. I wired the money. They congratulated me as if I had joined an exclusive club. They even threw around phrases like strategic partner and long-term vision. I felt exhilarated, convinced I had just taken the boldest and smartest step of my life. For weeks afterward, they kept me updated with emails, phone calls, and video meetings. They showed me supposed investor interest, drafts of new marketing campaigns, even digital mock-ups of what my hotel would look like after renovations. I was swept away by the illusion. I began preparing my staff for growth. I told them we were on the brink of something huge, that we might soon be hosting corporate clients and international travelers. They were excited, and for the first time, I felt like a true entrepreneur, like the kind of person who had not only built a business but was destined to expand it. What I didn't know then was that the walls of the trap were already closing in. The emails they sent me were fake. The investors didn't exist. The government liaison was nothing more than an actor with a polished badge. And the partnership fee I had sent was gone the second it left my account. But I wouldn't find that out until much later. For now, I was living in a dream, one that would soon become the darkest nightmare of my life. At first, everything looked perfect. The scammers sent me updates almost daily, making me feel like part of something bigger. They told me renovations were being scheduled, that contractors had been contacted, that investors were thrilled to be backing my property. But as weeks passed, little cracks began to appear. The first sign was a delayed email. They had promised me contracts from one of the supposed investors by Friday, but the email didn't arrive. When I followed up, they apologized profusely, saying the investor was traveling overseas and had limited internet access. They promised I would have the documents early next week. I wanted to believe them. I told myself big deals took time, that patience was part of business. Next came a request for additional money. They said the government liaison had uncovered a small tax discrepancy in my business records, and unless it was resolved quickly, it could jeopardize the funding approval. They assured me it was just a minor hurdle, but it would require another $10,000 to process the paperwork and expedite clearance. I hesitated. Deep down, something inside me twisted. But then one of them called me personally, speaking with such confidence and urgency, almost like a friend trying to help me out of a jam. Don't let this little thing ruin everything, he said. You've already come this far. You don't want to lose momentum now. I gave in. I wired the money. That was the beginning of the slow bleed. Over the next 2 months, I sent payment after payment. Always for something unexpected. Always for something that sounded urgent. One week it was a licensing fee. Another week it was an inspection deposit. Another time, they claimed an investor had pulled out last minute, and they needed me to help bridge the gap until a replacement was secured. Each time, I resisted at first, but they always had the right words, the right tone, the right documents that looked so official I felt foolish doubting them. Meanwhile, my hotel began to suffer. I had drained most of my savings into their scheme, leaving me short on cash flow. I delayed paying staff salaries 1 month, promising them it was temporary because big changes were coming. Bills piled up. Repairs went unfinished. Guests began to notice. My reviews started slipping. But still, I clung to the belief that this was all temporary, that soon the promised millions would roll in and everything would be worth it. The breaking point came one night when I tried to call their main number and it went straight to voicemail. I tried again the next day and the next. No answer. The emails stopped. The once busy group chat they had with me went silent. I panicked. I told myself maybe they were busy finalizing things. But after 2 weeks of silence, I couldn't deny the truth any longer. I had been scammed. The contracts, the government liaison, the investors, the mock-ups. It was all a show. Every dollar I had given them was gone. And because I had dipped into my hotel's operating funds to keep up with their constant demands, my business was on the brink of collapse. It felt like the walls were closing in on me. My dream hotel, the one I had poured years of blood, sweat, and tears into, was slipping through my fingers because I had trusted the wrong people. But the worst was still to come. Because scammers don't just take your money. They leave destruction behind that you have to face alone. After weeks of silence, I reached out to my bank and local authorities, clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, something could be done. But reality struck quickly. The money was gone. The wires I had sent had bounced through multiple international accounts before disappearing into untraceable digital wallets. The documents I had trusted were worthless. Even the phone numbers and websites I had relied on vanished overnight. My hotel couldn't recover. With staff unpaid and suppliers demanding their dues, I had no choice but to take out emergency loans just to keep the doors open a little longer. But without steady cash flow, and with my reputation slipping from the string of bad reviews, it became a losing battle. One by one, my best employees left. Guests stopped booking. And within 6 months, I had to sell the hotel at a fraction of its worth just to pay back what I could. It wasn't just the money I lost. It was years of sweat, sacrifice, and the dream I had built from nothing. The shame was unbearable. How could I, a business owner who prided myself on being careful, have fallen for something like this? I replayed every phone call, every email, every transfer. And with painful clarity, I could see the red flags I had ignored. The too good to be true promises. The constant pressure to act fast. The demands for secrecy, telling me not to share details until the deal was finalized. The official-looking documents that, in hindsight, were filled with errors I didn't notice. I had been blinded by desperation and hope, and scammers feed on both. Looking back, I wish I had spoken up sooner. I wish I had asked more questions, double-checked their credentials, and trusted my gut when things didn't add up. But scammers are masters of manipulation. They know exactly how to twist hope into a weapon, how to make you doubt your instincts, and how to drain you until there's nothing left. That's why I'm sharing my story now. Because if it happened to me, a hotel owner who thought I was cautious, it can happen to anyone. And it's happening every day. Scammers are out there right now, targeting small businesses, homeowners, and dreamers like me. They promise wealth, security, opportunity. But all they deliver is ruin. So please, if you ever get approached with offers that sound too perfect, step back. Verify everything. Talk to professionals. Don't let anyone rush you into wiring money or signing documents without independent advice. I can't get my hotel back. I can't undo the years of work I lost. But maybe, by telling my story, I can stop someone else from losing everything they've built. Because the truth is, scammers don't just take your money. They take your dreams. And some dreams never come back. If you've watched this far, thank you for listening to my story. Please remember, scammers don't just want your money. They want your trust, your time, and sometimes even your future. Stay alert, Protect yourself, and never be afraid to double-check before making life-changing decisions. This is Michael Mitnick, where we expose the lies so you can stay safe. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more videos.